Hi, welcome to the channel where we provide an alternative view to the common narrative. Today we're going to talk about uh, the recent increase in drone attacks by the Ukrainian forces and the targets that they have chosen and the response of the Russian military. I hope you enjoy the show.
So I heard about quite a few attacks from Ukraine using drones, and especially the two attacks on Crimea Bridge. But the second one was by unmanned boat, so I guess that one doesn't count. But I know there's been drones used to assassinate some people in Russia, and recently the amount of drone attacks have increased quite a bit. So let's talk a bit about that. Where will we start this time?
Well, actually, if you want to talk about drone attacks, for every time that Ukraine tries to obtain some propaganda feature, or in this case, it doesn't have any counter-offensive operations anymore, or if that is very limited. It seems to be that in the last couple of weeks, they have increased their drone attacks on Russian
Russia.
targets and so on,
Mm.
of which the latest one was actually on Monday morning,
No.
where they attacked Moscow again, which I understand is now the eighth attack on Moscow. Well, naturally, Moscow is protected by a significant air defense system,
Mm-hmm.
but some of them actually did create some damage, but it was the one I saw, the photo was an unoccupied building,
Mm-hmm.
building that was still in construction, and the other one was on a roof of a factory or something like that.
So they got through the defense system.
Yeah, and it's like again, us commentators are not real. We don't always understand
Mm.
all the weapon systems, especially
Mm.
the sophisticated ones. And we always assume that your air defenses are 100%
Mm.
accurately and destructive, when they never are, because nothing is. There are
Yeah.
so many other factors that involve, uh, in what direction are they flying, when are they detected, when are they
Mm.
identified, and at what distance, and what fire mechanism was used, or missile and so on. But in any case, so that was the latest one. And then a couple of weeks, then there was another one this weekend on, it was about, I think, 17 drones that
Mm.
attacked Crimea. And one actually, again, it looked like it hit an ammo dump or storage facility, and it started to burn. And actually, the governor, burgomaster,
Yeah, the
mayor,
mayor.
yeah, the mayor of that city and so on, called for evacuation. About 2,000 people were evacuated from this facility.
Just for interest sake, where do they go?
Well, they usually go to other parts where there's like church halls or school halls that are
To
prepared for beds and
to
so
leave
on.
everything
Yeah,
behind.
it's like a very temporary thing.
Mm.
It was
Okay.
only necessary because ammo dumps have a lot of ammunition,
Mm.
and if they explode, they can cause significant damage to the surrounding area.
Mm. Okay.
And it's like a blast wave that can travel and destroy houses if it comes to that. But luckily, they got it under control, so too much damage. So I believe the people probably went back the next day or so.
Okay.
And sometimes they go to their family if they have in other cities. But it was a target. The target was achieved
Mm.
by the Ukrainians, and you have to give credit for them. What what interested me is actually what type of drones are currently being used, because Crimea is a significant distance away from the conflict zone. Russia, Moscow is even much further. So one has to ask yourself: have these drones all traveled
Mm.
from Ukraine itself,
No, they
or
coordinated.
has there been some terrorist groups, or
Inside.
yeah, inside Russia that
Mm.
targeted from a shorter distance? Now, if it's a shorter distance, naturally, air defenses pick them up more difficult. They have a better chance of penetrating. But on the other hand, the FSB, the Secret Service or the of Russia, is fairly active. They are very successful also, and they have foiled a fairly large number of terrorist actions until now. So for them, capturing significant of these saboteurs or terrorists, I call them terrorists because at the end of the day, Ukraine doesn't target military.
They target the
civilian infrastructure and civilian people. Yeah. And for me, that is like terrorism. It's not a war. Even a war is between soldiers, and this is between a soldier and a civilian, and that's actually a war crime under the Geneva Convention. But you won't hear that in the West.
No one takes accountability for that.
But again, if one looks back at all the UAV attacks that Ukraine has done, especially on strategic targets like the Kursk Bridge, the Russians usually respond fairly
softly,
not one-sided. How do they call it? Not unsymmetric or something like that.
Oh, yeah, it's not the same amount.
Yeah, they would fire 1 or 2 UAVs, and Russia will fire like 100.
Oh, it's the opposite.
Yeah, but they did that, especially now that the grain deal has been suspended. Odessa was always as a off-limits type of target. So the Russians barely fired any missiles on Odessa, except if it was like strategic ones. There's a fairly strategic bridge in that region, so that was destroyed. And other sort of ammo dumps and so on. But that was about it that they destroyed. In this case, when the second attempt on the Kursk Bridge, where the road section was damaged, Russia did respond, and it destroyed a fair amount of, I wouldn't say infrastructure, but military dual-purpose type of infrastructure in Odessa. And I also understand that one of the loading cranes for the grain was damaged, or some system in it. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to export it.
Yeah, it's quite tactical.
But the only thing I sometimes have a problem with these UAVs and attacks and so on is, we had people, last year there was a significant effort by the Russians to destroy the electrical network, power network in Ukraine. And yes, it did destroy it. It did create some uncomfort for the civilian population. But, everything that is destroyed can be rebuilt. And the same with the Nord Stream pipelines. They are not permanently damaged. One can rebuild it if you want it. And in the case of Ukraine, they did rebuild the power system. And if they want to export future grain from Odessa, then they are able to rebuild those machinery. It only takes money and time. So sometimes I really wonder what the purpose is of UAV attacks on certain targets. If there are ammo dumps, that's a good target. If there are storage of armor or other equipment, that's a good thing. But sometimes I really wonder why, unless it is part of a combined operation. So if you want to attack, say, do now the counter effect by the Russians, then the first thing you destroy all the infrastructure, power station where the troops are, the enemy troops are, and communication lines, like telephone lines, telephone centrals.
Bridges?
Yeah, well, that's a funny thing as well, no? Most of the commentators, they always talk about the bridges that the Russians don't destroy, and then they get asked, but why doesn't Russia destroy these bridges? I mean, it would prevent rearmament or resupply it makes it much more difficult, and then they have to rebuild the bridges, and then they have to maybe sometimes build pontoon bridges, those can be bombed again, and when I ask the questions, and a lot of actually Russians in Russia ask that question. And then the pro-Russian punters then try to forward, but, the Russians still want to use those bridges and so on. They don't want to destroy it. which is the most ridiculous argument. Because if the Russians would advance and the Ukrainians would have to retreat, then they will blow up every bridge as a retreat in order
Not
to
before.
delay the advance of the enemy, the Russians. So none of the bridges would stand. If there's any counter-offensive, proper offensive by the Russians, all those bridges, even important how much, they will be destroyed. So I don't understand why these people make these type of arguments. But actually, it's a okay. How do we say? I know Scott Ritter always say, you have to laugh because you actually want to cry.
Yeah, it's trauma response.
Yeah.
It's
And
so
the point
sad.
here is that you have to laugh because the people that are the most drone orientated are the Russians. They use a lot of drones to attack and naturally cruise missiles and ballistic missiles.
Why?
But most, for the bigger targets.
Okay.
Because these missiles can carry a larger payload. I think the Iskander has about 500 kilograms of explosives. Why this, long range UIV from, what do they call it? I can't remember now what they call it. It's famous. Actually, they are accused that they get it from Iran. They can, I think there's about 4 or 8 kilograms of explosive.
You should probably show what they look like.
Yeah.
On a photo too. We'll pop it in.
Yeah.
In there.
So, what is it? Geronimo.
Gerasimo.
No.
Oh.
The UIV is called. Yeah, I'm bad with names.
We'll put that into. We'll put that in.
In any case, so and now the Ukrainians are doing the similar thing, attacking it by UIV, but again, not very effective, and it's a mostly civilian target, which is another thing I don't understand from the Ukrainians. They have a shortage of ammunition. They have a shortage of missiles, artillery rounds, and stuff like that. And then they fire it on civilian targets. What's the point?
That's cool.
You know, it's wasted ammo, basically. It doesn't terrorize the people. It much just makes them a little bit more aggressive or
angry,
and creates trauma and sadness.
Just misery, suffering.
But suffering and misery, which is totally unnecessary.
I mean, the bridge, the parents that were. And then that's the orphan, they left the orphan.
Precisely. For what purpose? I mean, really.
She'll have a good revenge story.
Yeah, but
that's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. It's unnecessary. It is just stupid, plain stupid, unnecessary. It's like a psychopathic operation. But like I said, let's see how it progresses. I believe the UIV thing will increase. Ukraine has a lot of smaller, cheaper versions that they're being supplied with. There's also some kamikaze drones again that the Americans are supplying. And they also see the effectiveness of the Russian UIVs on the battlefield. But as I discussed earlier, UIVs are not the answer to everything. You still need human intelligence.
Okay, anyways, that's the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, like, subscribe, share. And that means tell your friends.
Leave a comment in the comment section. And until next time then.
Goodbye.
Cheers.